I'm telling you, man, I've been saying it this year time and time again. I'll say it again. Maybe it's recency bias. This year has been a great one for horror, I feel, and also for horror like posters and marketing. Got a lot of reds, got a lot of blacks, but this is no exception. A great year for unique horror premises, just in general.
I'm giving you the chance to be of great use in our quest for preservation. Consider yourself lucky.
And today we have Cuckoo, or as my friends so hilariously keep saying, Cuckoo. You watch a couple videos and you tell your friends about it one time. Can't even bust a nut in peace. The jungle is dark and full of terrors. So you watch out for the creepy crawlies of the jungle, you know what I'm saying? To get right into it, Cuckoo is directed by German director Tillman Siener, who this is his second full-length feature film. First film was back in 2017 called Lutz or Lutz. The proper German phonetics escape me. Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Nein. Two main leads that you'd either have already heard about by now or that you'd want to concern yourself with. We have one who, here's a funny Mandela effect, but so Hunter Schafer, she's the lead of this. I don't know why, anytime that I've heard her name this year, I've assumed that she's been around for like a while and that she's a very well-known actor. She really like came onto the scene via Euphoria, which still haven't watched it. I know, I've heard it's good. I'll watch it someday, eventually. I did touch on her in Kinds of Kindness briefly as well, because she had a very small role in that movie. For some reason, I thought that she's been a star longer than she actually has, and she hasn't, but she's great. And then we have a man who I have not been giving him his proper due until after I saw Abigail, and then I discovered how much he's truly been in. But Dan Stevens, this man, his versatility, both like from a physical appearance perspective and also the characters that he plays, each one so markedly different. I've most recently covered him, like I said, he was that one asshole, I think, Frank in Abigail, but he was Frank in Abigail, Colin X Godzilla as the basically like the kaiju veterinarian. And I think people know him especially for his role in The Guest, which I always heard it's a good one. I still have not seen The Guest. I will watch it someday. And then I put a side note in here. The actor Martin Sokas, which I feel like I've seen him in something before. He has one of those faces. I'll put him in the Hall of Fame of all-time shitty movie dads. Like, he's up there. He's a Hall of Famer. Anyway, this film has stuck around with me and has a special place in my heart, mainly because I remember the very first teaser trailer, which was literally just like Hunter Schafer from the back. And it's that scene in the movie where she's like walking up to it's an open door, like she's working at this resort, it's abandoned right now, and the door's open, she goes to like the kind of the door frame and like hears creepy noises out in the distance, but it's all like dark woods outside, and she like takes out a butterfly knife and like and is like ready, and that was it. And then it was like Cuckoo. I'm like, oh shit, oh okay, well what's up? I went to go see a horror movie by myself one day. This was like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago, and a full trailer for this dropped. And the first time that I saw the trailer for Cuckoo, it legitimately scared me. I don't recall the last time that I've been unnerved, but that bike scene really got me, and then like just the vibe of the rest of the movie and the whole like floating in the hallway, coming up on that girl in the bed, like it really got to me. So ever since I saw like what it was about and knew what the story was going to be and what the premise was, I was in. It was like body horror, sci-fi, possibly 80s horror with the whole like the almost like that mech scene.
How would you like to come work for me at the resort?
So as I said already, it's been a great year with great horror flicks, and Cuckoo is certainly no exception. The premise, the narrative of this film, and the creature, or rather I guess you would call it a creature feature, low-key. It's more body horror, I guess, but the antagonistic force in this film is certainly a creative and interesting one, but this film does succeed. It's almost hard to put into words, but I like the aesthetic. Almost like there's like this like color palette of these grays and teals and forest greens, and then I felt like there was a certain like filter on it that gave the movie like a certain texture to it. And the sound design, the soundscape in this movie, whatever this creature is, always like, you know, when it's shrieking in the distance, or when it gets closer, and the noises that it makes, it's so unnerving. So a lot of creepy moments. I don't know if I was scared during the movie per se, but I was creeped out. I found myself in the head of the protagonist very often. I was quite often unnerved. There were cool choices in direction throughout the movie that I thought made for cool, like, visually engaging sequences that kind of added to the mystery that you wanted to peel away from this movie. Even though you do get some like lore and exposition dumps here and there, I feel like you're still trying to unravel and solve the movie as it progresses, and even when you get answers, you're still trying to connect certain dots in your head like our protagonist is. I really like Hunter Schafer in this role. I think she's very good. I know she's been in like dramatic roles in the past, but seeing her in like Final Girl territory, and just I liked her aesthetic. No spoiler because you see it in the trailer, but basically she has a run-in with whatever this creature is, like pretty early on in the film, which ultimately ends up leaving her pretty badly injured. You see she's beat up, the black eye, the arms in like the sling and the cast and whatnot, and so like most of the movie she's kind of like halfway crippled, right? Like she doesn't have full mobility. All the marketing for it, the little like reviewer critic quips have said as much. But yeah, she's good, like Scream Queen, Final Girl material, kind of builds her way up from being a character who doesn't know what's going on and who's kind of afraid and running or at the mercy of her environments and situations, becomes a bit more capable of a bit more of a survivor, kind of has more agency for herself. But I liked her character. I thought it was interesting. Funny enough, once you get some backstory for her character and you learn about like where her head's at and where she came from and like what's going on in her life, I kind of got a little bit misty-eyed here and there. There's a surprisingly strong emotional core to her character in this movie. Dan Stevens, of course, just plays a great creep. It's great. Like, direction's great. The movie is violent on occasion and a little bit upsetting here and there, but it never got as violent as I thought it was going to get. Take that for what you will, it's still like an R rating. Guns are fired a few times in this film, but I will say, similar to why I love Free Fire so much, there is a solid shootout in this movie that I love so much because it's a very realistic shootout and that people just can't hit each other. Like that's most shootouts, like especially if it's ranged, most people, you miss all the time. Yeah, but overall it was a fun little horror story. I mean, by the end of it, I really found that I enjoyed my time. The cons that I felt like that at the very end, there was some minor loose ends, and I suppose you don't need these ends to be tied off necessarily, but I always like a sense of finality in most of my films, and especially in a horror film like this, like you get to your climax and it's like, okay, and then that's the ending, and you're like, oh, all right, well, I can piece together where things could potentially go from here, but there's a bunch of loose threads and some like lingering questions that you have, and I'm kind of okay with that, but at the same time, a small part of me isn't. Personally, and perhaps selfishly, but I think for a horror film, this is a reasonable want. I was hoping for more creeps and thrills. I think showing the bike scene is a really good way to entice the audience and bring them in. It did scare me and got me going, but the inverse of that is that I don't get to experience the bike scene as like with virgin eyes in a theater, like when the lights are down, etc., etc. So there were other creepy moments throughout the movie, but I wish this movie had more of that. Which leads to the last con, which I'm a guy who loves a nice long film, and as long as that you put quality and content into that runtime, then I think a longer runtime is more than justified. And this was another case. I think like this, and then I'm pretty sure I mentioned it when I reviewed Alien Romulus. I just wish it was a longer film. I think if it was longer, it gives more time for the director and the actors and everybody to cook, as it were. All things considered, I don't really have a whole lot of complaints. I really enjoyed this film. I loved moments in it. I loved aspects of the film. It's not without its flaws. Some of my friends kind of I shouldn't say tore it apart, but some of my friends did take more issue with the film than I did personally, or they just didn't quite enjoy it as much as I did. But I liked the aesthetic. I liked Hunter Schafer's role in it. I liked Dan Stevens' role in it. I enjoyed the story, the mystery, the creeps, the chills, the thrills, the violence. It was all a fun time. As it stands, I would still very much be willing to give Cuckoo a high 4 out of 5. A high 4 out of 5 for old Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over here. Yeah, 100% would, like, I would recommend it. I still think this is part of 2024's compendium of great horror flicks for the year. I would still recommend it. I still say go see it. End of the day, without spoiling the movie, that's about all I've got to say about Cuckoo. So thank you guys and gals so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review. And goodbye, travelers.